a gift that many people have today, and here's how they use it. So, apostle. The gift of apostleship is the divine strength or ability to pioneer new churches and ministries through planting, overseeing, and training. The original apostles were given authority by Jesus to many different things to establish the church, including writing scripture and performing miracles. But today, here's from an excerpt from a really good commentary. While the office of apostle today, the gift of apostles still continues. Jesus gave apostles, prophets, evangelists, shepherds, and teachers at his ascension, and these represent a distinct category of apostles. They do not have the authority to write scripture as the original apostles did. They also have a different purpose in the sense of establishing the church. The foundation was already set. The mission of those with the gift of apostleship today is to plant new ministries and churches, to go places where the gospel is not preached, to reach across cultures to establish churches in challenging environments, to raise up, develop leaders, to call out, to lead pastors and shepherds, and much more. So these are influencers. They're church planners. They're missionaries. They carry with them. I think an apostle carries with them a certain authority. Where when they come in, you go, "Wow, this person has a sense of authority that you don't often see." And but you'd have to, because you're walking in somewhere where they're saying, "No, this we don't believe in that Jesus thing," and you're like, "But I'm going to tell you about him anyways," So the gift of apostle is a powerful gift. And so who are some examples of apostles? And again, this kind of proves that even the Bible teaches that the apostles carried on beyond the original 12. So in Acts chapter 9, verse 27, but Barnabas took hold of him and brought him to the apostles and described to them how he had seen the Lord on the road and that he had talked to him, and how at Damascus he had spoken out boldly in the name of Jesus. Barnabas is described as an apostle, Barnabas the apostle, but he wasn't one of the original 12. And what do we find Barnabas do? Everybody else is like, Saul, that's the guy who was persecuting the church. I'm going to keep my distance. But Barnabas was like, no, because he was told by the Holy Spirit to do it. And he takes him and he ends up traveling with him. So part of that call of being an apostle is a boldness that we see here in Barnabas. And then it goes on even further in Acts chapter 14, because now Barnabas has become Paul's traveling mate, and they've ended up somewhere where they're worshiping a whole lot of other gods, but the priest of Zeus, whose temple was just outside the city, brought oxen and garland to the gates and wanted to offer sacrifice with the crowds to Barnabas and Paul because of what they had done. But when the apostles, Barnabas and Paul, heard of it, they tore their robes and rushed out into the crowd, crying and saying, "Men, why are you doing these things? We are also men of the same nature as you, and preach the gospel to you, that you should turn from these vain things to a living God, who made the heaven and the earth and the sea and all that is in them." So Paul and Barnabas, as apostles, both of them, they didn't want to draw attention to themselves. They wanted to draw attention to the Lord. And as a matter of fact, when people are like, "Hey, we need to build an altar to you guys," it's like, no, you don't, because that's not who we are. We point at the guy you should build an altar to, but we do not allow you to build an altar to ourselves. So the very next gift after the gift of apostleship is the gift of prophecy. And remember, we've already kind of talked about, the Old Testament prophet, what they were looking at, and a New Testament prophet. If I tell you, we're just having a conversation, I said, "Hey man, your boss really thinks you're doing good," then you're going to go, "Oh, why are we talking to my boss?" Well, I guess that's okay, or whatever. But then when I say, your boss and I were talking about you, and he told me on this one particular job, and I described the job to you, and I give you details of that job, and your boss said, "Man, he just is blown away by your work ethic." that means a lot more to you because I've added detail in there that makes you think, I've actually talked to your boss has actually talked to me, and your boss said, man, I love that guy, he's a great employee. Today, the prophetic that spreads for everybody, that's part of what that prophetic gifting is for, is when God talks to me about Teresa, and I go to Teresa and I say, God really wants you to know that in that area, he is super proud of you. And it's not just me looking at Teresa, God loves you. And Teresa goes, well, that's great. Yeah, thanks a lot. But no, God saw when you did this. How did you know that? Because God told me. That is the prophetic working that works in all of us, where all of that's available. You've had that time in your life where you've gotten this impression, I should say this thing to this person, but if I say this thing to this person, they're going to look at me and go, you are nuts. When in actuality, they're going to look at you and go, how did you know that? Well, God just told me about it. See, if I talk to you about my kids, when I talk to you about my kids, you get the sense that I like my kids, right? So when I talk to you about God's kid, which is you, it should make you excited. And there's been more than one time where, Sally, I never will forget this one opportunity where Sally just said to this guy something about his childhood, and he looked at his wife like, did you tell her? And she's like, no. And it was God using a word that he'd given Sally to be able to break through this guy's rock-solid wall that he had up, that he wasn't expecting Sally to know this little bit of detail. And so God, that's what it does. But let's talk about the other thing, the bigger gift, because remember, all of us have that, but some people have this supernatural ability in the prophetic. And so that's what we're going to look at now. So what is the gift of prophecy or prophet? The spiritual gift of prophecy. The gift of prophecy is the divine strength or ability to communicate God's truth and heart in the way that calls people to right understanding and relationships with God. The Greek word literally means to receive a divinely inspired message and deliver it. Sometimes, and now this is scary to me, but I'm going to go ahead and say this from this one particular commentary. These messages can take the form of exhortation, yes. Predictions of future events, okay. Comfort, okay. Inspiration, yes. Revelations given to equip and edify the body. Yay, I like all these, but it goes on. But correction. So you mean a prophet might actually offer some correction? Yes, because God loves us and he wants us to fully function, and he knows if you can't fully function if you still are wearing that old thing. You can't fully function if you won't put that thing down that you're carrying. I want you, and I put this on Facebook the other day, and it just really impacted me because God was saying, I don't want more from you, I want more for you. And in order for you to have more, you're going to have to put down what you have. Moses is standing there, and God said, Moses, what's that in your hand? Well, this is my favorite staff. In the words of Nacho Libre, this is my mother's favorite machete. Well, this is my favorite staff. This is my staff. I've had this staff in my hand for the last 40 years. I've chased off animals. I've used it to do this. I've used it to do that. It's like, that's awesome. Throw it down. But I really like. He didn't want more from Moses. He wanted more for Moses. And imagine eventually, what does that staff do? It doesn't just turn the Nile red. It splits the Red Sea. It produces water where there's no water. When it's held up, it brings victory in a battle. That staff would have never done that had Moses not been willing to give it up. So I kind of got on a sidetrack there. So it's okay that a prophet is going to do things that include correction. That's a good thing because God does correct. He corrects those that he loves. Parents, we know that we correct our children because we love them. We love them. So, and I kind of think that this about Old Testament prophets were like Lewis and Clark. That's not a TV show. That was Lois and Clark. Lewis and Clark were the guys who, they charted much of the unknown world at that time. Going west meant you were going to Kentucky. That's what that meant. Now, we think going west means, going out west. But back then, going west meant you were going to Kentucky. So Lewis and Clark go out, and they do all these beautiful drawings, and they do all these maps. But you know what the prophetic of today is? It's the GPS that tells you, there is a traffic light. There is a car parked on the side of the road. There is a police officer waiting for you at the. It fills in the blanks now. The map is already drawn, but it's filling in the detail of that. So early in Acts, we see Peter taking the role of a prophet. Acts chapter 2, verse 14. But Peter, taking his stand with the 11, raised his voice and declared to them, Men of Judea, and all who live in Jerusalem, let this be known to you, and give heed to my words. This is day one of the new church age, right? Okay, the day one of the Holy Spirit showing up and showing out. He goes on to talk about the promised Messiah. In verses 22 and 23, he says this, Men of Israel, listen to these words. Jesus the Nazarene, a man attested to you by God with miracles and wonders and signs which God performed through him in your midst. Just as you yourselves know, this man, delivered over by the predetermined plan and foreknowledge of God, you nailed to a cross by the hands of godless men to be put to death. Gee, that's not all flowers and roses and unicorns and all that. No, it's the harsh truth. And a prophetic person, a prophet, will speak the truth. But he does it in love. Because Peter wasn't up there lambasting these people. He was up there to invite them, hey, you're drowning. Would you like to get in the boat? There's safety up here where we are. You're dead. Would you like to come over here where it's live? And that's what happens there. And then to finish up this in Acts chapter 2, verse 36 and 37, he says this, Therefore let all the house of Israel know for certain that God has made him both Lord and Christ, the Jesus whom you crucified. Now when they heard this, they were pierced to the heart and said to Peter and the rest of the apostles, Brethren, what shall we do? The prophet speaks, and people, their hearts are moved, and they say, what do we need to do? What do we do? What do we need to do? So that's the gifting of the prophet. The next gift is the gift of the evangelist. Now, when I say evangelist, how many of you just saw a picture of Billy Graham in your head? He's like the most famous evangelist of our day. But he wasn't, there were other evangelists. Billy Sunday was a famous evangelist. Some of you may remember stories about him. He was a professional baseball player. And how did he get saved? He got saved through the ministry of a shoe salesman or something, or he was selling shoes or something. But it's amazing. So here's the evangelism. The gift of evangelism is the divine strength or ability to help non-Christians take the necessary steps to becoming born-again Christians and to train others in the ministry of evangelism. So an evangelist doesn't just help people get saved. An evangelist helps train other people so that all of us can take the role that we were asked to do by our Jesus, and that is to evangelize the world. So, I'm sorry, yes? Sorry. You can borrow my glasses? Okay, I'm just kidding. The gift of evangelism is the divine strength or ability to help non-Christians take the necessary steps to becoming a born-again Christian and to train others in the ministry of evangelism. Got it? Good, perfect. One commentary reads this, Evangelists are burdened in their hearts for the lost and will go out of their way to share the truth with them. Evangelists are able to overcome the normal fear of rejection and engage non-believers in meaningful conversations about Jesus. If you know somebody who's an evangelist, you know they will I ain't afraid of nothing, nobody. They're just I'm going to talk about Jesus. What are you going to talk about? Jesus? Or really? Nothing else? Nope, just Jesus. Their gift allows them to communicate with all types of people, and therefore they receive a greater response to the message of salvation through Jesus Christ. Here's a good example of, in the New Testament, about an evangelist. His name was Philip. Acts chapter 8. It says, Philip went down to the city of Samaria and began proclaiming Christ to them. That was what he was doing. He was seeing people come to know the Lord. In verse 26, it says,